I never thought the stuff I learned in the Army would matter on a Tuesday afternoon in Maple Hollow, Tennessee. Quiet street, trimmed hedges, kids' bikes tipped over in driveways. The kind of place where the loudest sound is a sprinkler ticking across a patch of sunburned grass. But there are days when the past taps you on the shoulder, and you turn around to find it standing in your yard wearing a fake badge and a smirk. That was the day 3 men climbed out of a black SUV with tactical vests that shined like they'd just come out of a Halloween aisle, and one of them did the dumbest thing I've seen a grown man do: swung at my wife. Her name is Dana. She was out by the hydrangeas with a hose in her hand, and that tired half-smile she gets when she's already thinking about dinner and emails and a loose porch board we've been meaning to fix. The SUV rolled by once, then twice, then stopped across from our mailbox like it couldn't make up its mind whether to leave or show off. Doors opened. 3 guys stepped out, black vests, nylon belts, shiny patches that looked official if you didn't know what a real patch felt like. No radios, no duty boots, no body cams, not one bit of the weight people who actually serve carry on their hips and in their eyes. HOA compliance inspection. The tallest one barked as he walked straight through our gate like he owned the air between the pickets. He flipped a leather wallet so fast the plastic caught the sun and flashed like a toy. Dana didn't move. She just said, calm as a librarian, "Since when does the HOA send police?" "We are the law here," the second guy said, that cheap bravado that tells you he practices being feared in his bathroom mirror. Dana lifted her phone, and that's when the third one, stocky, nervous hand slapped it out of her grip and then slapped her. No wind-up, no thought. Just the back of a hand and a choice he would regret all the way to booking. I heard Dana shout from the garage. I was elbow-deep in a cardboard box of old field gear kept for no good reason other than it was a piece of who I used to be. My body moved before my brain did. I reached the yard in 5 long steps. I saw Dana's palm pressed to her cheek, water hitting the lawn in a sloppy arc, and 3 men puffed up like parade balloons who hadn't realized the wind was changing. "You picked the wrong house," I said, not loud playing. My voice goes quiet when my heart gets loud. 5 seconds. "Who sent you?" "The president," the tall one said, chin high like a kid daring a dog through a fence. "You've ignored notices. We're here to make you comply." I looked at his vest, the frayed stitching around the patch, the plastic holster that would split if it ever had to do more than look tough. I looked at Dana, and she gave me the slightest shake of her head. She was okay. Angry. Filming already. My shoulders settled. Training doesn't leave you. It sits in your bones like an old song. "First," I said, eyes on him, "I park legal, my fence is stamped by the city inspector, and those dogs you don't like are service animals. ADA protection's not a suggestion. Second, you're trespassing. Third, impersonating an officer is a felony. You're stacking bad choices." He laughed, but it was the brittle kind. The short one fumbled at his belt and yanked out a pair of cuffs with seams so rough they could snag a sweater. "Turn around," he said, voice cracking. Now, what happened next wasn't pretty, and it doesn't need to be explained step by step. I kept it controlled because that's the only way anyone goes home. I redirected a wrist I didn't want on my wife, put a man on the grass who didn't expect to lie down that day, stepped aside from a swing, used momentum that didn't belong to me, and suddenly the street went quiet except for the sprinkler and a neighbor's dog chiming in from 2 doors down. The leader tried to hold the performance together. "You're assaulting officers." But even he heard how ridiculous it sounded with Dana's camera pointed steady and the neighbor's blinds going crooked. "Sheriff's on the way," Dana called from the porch, voice steady now, phone up, red light winking. "Keep those hands where they are, gentlemen." The tall one broke. He bolted for the SUV like the keys to his courage were in the glove box. I caught the back of his vest and met him with steel hood of his own truck, palms out flat, face down, breath hot against the metal. No more speeches. Just the sound of sirens winding up somewhere past the oak trees on Glenview Road. When the deputies rolled in, everything sharpened. Doors cracked, voices crisp, hands visible. "Step back." I stepped back. Dana didn't blink. The 3 imposters got very quiet while the vests came off, and the wallets got a longer look. It only took a couple of questions for their story to fall apart like old drywall. The short one cracked first. "Always the mouth that gets you into it, that gets you out of it," 2 said the name, Meredith Cole, and then said cash, like the 2 words could explain the hole he'd dug himself. Meredith Cole, our HOA president, is the kind of neighbor who smiles with all her teeth and still makes you count your fingers after you shake her hand. She runs board meetings like courtrooms, fills the minutes with adjectives, and loves a phrase that sounds legal if you squint. She's the one who pushed through the beautification initiative that came with fines big enough to make folks on fixed incomes sell their fishing boats. She's also been loudly, and I mean loudly, annoyed that we haven't replaced our cedar fence with the board-approved composite. Dana likes real wood. I like not being bullied by plastic. Down at the station, the imposters were done performing. Nylon belts on a steel table look as fake as they feel. One deputy bagged the vests, another logged the badges that wouldn't fool a mall security guard. The leader glanced at me like maybe he could still find dignity if I gave him a nod. I didn't. A detective asked if I wanted to press charges, and my answer didn't need rehearsal. Every charge that applies, I said. And if there's one you can add for laying a hand on my wife, add that too. Meredith didn't slink. She strutted. By evening, she'd filed a complaint accusing me of excessive force and creating a hostile atmosphere for community governance. Her statement said the men were private security contractors acting within a community safety scope. Our attorney, a steady woman named Nora Pierce who doesn't raise her voice unless someone wastes the court's time, read the complaint and smiled in a way that made me wish I had popcorn. "This is a gift," she said. "We counter with harassment, conspiracy, intentional infliction of emotional distress. And we have video. Court day in Maple Hollow is less marble columns and more wood paneling and coffee breath. Folks from the neighborhood filled the back rows like it was a high school game. Mr. Alvarez, who's lived here 30 years and never misses an HOA meeting no matter how much it raises his blood pressure, gave me a nod that meant finish this." The gavel was barely down before Meredith's lawyers started spinning words like misunderstanding and community cohesion and appropriate response. It took 1 minute of Dana's video on the screen to melt that story into a puddle. You could hear the room change. You could hear the moment the judge flipped from polite patience to that quiet anger good judges know what to do with. He leaned back, steepled his fingers, watched the slap, watched me warn, watched the toy cuffs, the flailing baton, the SUV dash, the deputies doing the job the way it's supposed to be done. When the lights came up, the judge looked at Meredith like she'd tracked mud on his clean floor. "These men are not officers," he said, each word a separate brick. "They were hired to intimidate. Ms. Cole, your complaint is frivolous and abusive. It is dismissed with sanctions. Counsel, prepare for the counterclaims." Meredith's smile got lost somewhere under the table. Her board allies studied their shoes. Mr. Alvarez whispered, "About time," loud enough to be picked up by the microphones. The imposters were hit with charges that included impersonating an officer and assault. The deputy who'd taken our statements, Riley, young but steady, shook my hand in the hallway and said quietly, "You kept it controlled out there. Most folks would have made it worse." I wish that's where it ended. Gavel down. Righteousness up, but real life loves a messy middle. The week after court, flyers went up about a special HOA session and extraordinary governance measures. The board tried to save face by calling it a misunderstanding, outsourced compliance gone awry, and floated the idea of doubling fines to stabilize reserves after the sanctions. People showed up. People who never show up filled folding chairs and stood along the walls. You could feel a neighborhood remember its voice. When the microphone opened, Mr. Alvarez walked to the front, and the room went still. "I've watched this place change from farm lots to cul-de-sacs," he said, voice rough. "Rules keep us from becoming a junkyard. But rules without neighbors become a racket. We are not a racket." Applause started at the back and rolled forward like weather. A treasurer I'd only ever seen nodding in Meredith's shadow cleared his throat and read a resignation letter he'd typed in 14-point Times New Roman. 2 other board members followed. A petition started at the left side of the room and snaked through the aisles for a recall election. Dana signed it with the same steady hand she used to hold her phone. That night, we sat on the porch with the dogs at our feet and the soft sound of cars drifting by. Dana's cheek was yellowing at the edges like an old photo. "You okay?" I asked, knowing the answer but wanting to hear it. "I'm tired of living small," she said. "I'm tired of acting like the fastest talker sets the rules." We talked about moving, about staying, about the way a bad neighbor can make a sweet street taste bitter, and how you fix that by leaving or by planting deeper roots and pulling the weeds. The county prosecutor called the next day and asked if we'd be willing to testify when the impersonation case went to trial. We will, I said. We'll tell it straight. A week later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. The voice belonged to the stocky guy, the one who slapped the phone, who stepped into the darkest 5 seconds of his life, and then kept stepping. He'd made a deal. He started talking. He said Meredith didn't think of it as violence. She called it compliance theater. She told them to be seen, to make a show of it, to teach a lesson to people who slowed down progress. He said there was a developer sniffing around parcels that weren't for sale, the last few big yards that make a neighborhood feel like a neighborhood, and that the fines and heat were meant to make the holdouts tired. He cried when he said it. He said his mom lived 2 streets over, and he should have known better. I'm not a man who enjoys winning. I enjoy things making sense. The DA opened a broader investigation, and our neighborhood, Maple Hollow, tidy little place with big trees and short memories, found itself on the evening news looking like something it doesn't want to be. For a few weeks, the air felt like a storm that wouldn't break. Then it did. The recall election went through. Meredith stepped down in a blazer that didn't fit right anymore. The new board folks who'd rather fix a fence with you than fine you for it voted to suspend the beautification initiative, hired an outside auditor, and set aside a budget line item for service animal accommodations that made Dana squeeze my hand under the table. The last scene I'll give you is simple, and it's mine. Early morning, pale sky, the kind of cool air Tennessee gives you as an apology for August. I ran into Mr. Alvarez by the mailboxes. He had a thermos in one hand and the local paper in the other. Front page showed Meredith walking out of the county building, chin down, headline with words like sanctions and agreement in principle. He raised the thermos like a toast. We fix this place by acting like neighbors, he said, or we lose it by acting like something else. That afternoon, I took down the no trespassing sign I'd put up after the SUV day. Not because I don't believe in boundaries, I believe in them more than ever, but because I'd rather a person read my face before they read my fence. Dana smiled. We went inside, made dinner, and for a full hour didn't talk about fines, boards, or lawyers. Just the sound of pans, dogs circling for a dropped carrot, the ordinary holiness of a house that's fought for but not fought in. Do I think it's over? No. There's always another letter, another vote, another neighbor who thinks rules are a tool instead of a promise. But I know the line now. I know where I stand, and I know how quickly a quiet street can become a stage and how quickly a stage can become a courtroom. We didn't choose the fight. We chose to finish it with the right people in the right room. And that matters in a world where too many folks think a patch and a vest can make them bigger than the law. So tell me what you think. Was justice done? Or did everyone get off too easy? Should HOAs have the power they do? Or did our community forget what neighbor means and let that vacuum fill with something uglier? Drop your take below where you stand on the line between order and overreach. What you'd do if 3 men in a black SUV walked through your gate, and whether our ending feels like accountability or just the opening scene of the next round.